Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Walk. I'm Tony Leon, your host. It's the place where you be enlightened, encouraged, and empowered to work out your own salvation without fear of being led astray. For we walk by faith and not by sight. And God's word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. And as we go on this journey together, we're going to follow the Lamb, Jesus Christ, wherever he goes. And we shall do so in spirit and in truth. Now, before we get started, I'd like for you all to subscribe, hit that notification bell, like, share, and comment. And also, if you're so inclined, please drop us an email at enduretobesaved@gmail.com. Comments, concerns, questions, even complaints. Now, I just wanted to be able to just focus on one thing real quick, if you can give me one brief moment. Okay. So we're going to go right into our program right now with COVID Corner. Now, there was a question that came up about vaccines. Well, they're on their way. And I want to say vaccines, I mean vaccines with an S, because there's not just one. Now, we're going to go over a couple things real quick. So, first of all, these are the numbers. And like I said before, I hate going over these numbers because they're just astronomical. And sometimes it's almost like a blur. When you see these numbers, they're just terrible. I mean, 13 million plus, this is ridiculous. And of course, the cases are 264,000. We have the worldwide numbers at 61 million. And then the deaths, 1.4 million. This is terrible. But look at this right quick, because I said this last week, but now you can see it more clear. Check this out. See the third wave? Y'all notice that? It is peaking, plateauing. This is kind of what you want to see. It's kind of messed up because do you want to see us having COVID? No, but you want to see this because it shows that maybe now is dipping down. And that was the projected. It's just that we have a problem because we have all these holidays. We had, and I hate to even call this a holiday, but some people celebrate it like that. Halloween, the 31st, boom, skyrocketed. Then we had Thanksgiving. And that's what we're not seeing yet. We're not seeing those numbers come in yet because you notice that sometimes those numbers come in about like maybe a week or two after the event, so to speak. And then, of course, we have Christmas and New Year's, all this coming up. And those numbers, I don't know what's going to happen with that curve. It might be still the same and go down the mountain, or it might just continue to rise. And it's just one of those little breaks that we see. I'm not sure about all that. But it's just terrible how we have these numbers. Let's go and look at the top three. This is crazy because they're totally different. I feel kind of funny saying this because number one is not North Dakota. Number three is not South Dakota. Look, all new. Wyoming, New Mexico, and Minnesota. I mean, it's ridiculous. So this is all based upon where new cases are higher and staying high. That's what this is. Staying high and not coming down. Okay. Moving on. We're going to go into this. Check this out. Public needs to prep for vaccine side effects because that's what's happening. We have plenty of vaccines on the way. The thing is, there's a commonality with all of them. Now, this came from Science. I guess it's Science. And I want to read this because I want you all to understand this is not just, oh, let me get a vaccine, get a shot, and then you're all good. No, there's more involved. Pay attention. Now, this says public needs to prep for vaccine side effects. It says this summer, computational biologist Luke Hutchinson volunteered for a trial of Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine. Okay, volunteered. But after the second injection, did you catch that? After the second injection, so it's not just one, his arm swelled up to the size of a goose egg. That's pretty large. Hutchinson says he can't be sure he got the vaccine and not a placebo. But within a few hours, Hutchinson, who was healthy and 43, was beset by bone and muscle aches and a 38 0.9 Celsius, that's 102 degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit, fever. He says, I started shaking. I had cold and hot rushes, he says. I was sitting by the phone all night long thinking, should I call 911? Hutchinson's symptoms resolved after 12 hours. But he says, nobody prepared me for the severity of this. Okay, so he says the public should be better prepared than he was because a subset of people may face intense, if transient side effects called, retrogenicity from Moderna's vaccine. Okay, so I guess that's the Moderna's vaccine. Some health experts agree. Somebody needs to address the elephant in the room, so to speak. What about vaccine retrogenicity? While it's not going to cause any long-term issues, so they say, how is that perception going to go with the public once they start receiving it? Asked Deborah Fuller, a vaccinologist at the University of Washington, Seattle, whose lab is developing second-generation RNA vaccines against COVID-19. She worries the side effects could feed vaccine hesitancy. I feel like it's being glossed over. That's what she says. Okay. Here we go to this other part. But that's a higher rate of severe reactions than people may be accustomed to. Okay. Because there's a bunch of other stuff that you can experience. Okay. This is higher retrogenicity than is ordinarily seen with most flu vaccines. Even the high dose ones, says Arnold Monto, an epidemiologist at the University of Michigan School of Public Health, says transparency is key. Everyone needs to be aware of what's happening. When you start taking these shots, and the key word is shots, because it's not just one. Let me finish this because I might have to break this thing down. Okay, transparency is key. Hausman emphasizes, rather than minimizing the chance of fever, for instance, vaccine administrators could alert people that they may experience a fever that can feel severe, but is temporary. And it quotes, that would go a significant way toward people feeling like they are being told the truth, adds Drew Wiseman, an immunologist at the University of Pennsylvania, whose research contributed to both vaccines. The companies just have to warn people, this is what you need to expect. Take Tylenol and suck it up for a day, because I guess you're going to be in severe pain and discomfort. Hausman also sees a need to support people who have serious reactions. For example, people may need a hotline with a nurse triaging, figuring out if you need to go to the hospital or not. Will your medical expenses be covered? If you do. These are important questions. Okay. And it says both Moderna's and Pfizer's biotech's vaccine require 2 doses. This is the part. They require 2 doses, not just one, you all. It says separated by weeks, several weeks. So you take one, and then several weeks later, you got to take the other. But in the meantime, after you take the first one, all these adverse reactions, all these adverse side effects. I'm talking about almost like the flu-like symptoms, the sweating, the fevers, and the aches and the pains and all that kind of stuff. That's what you're going to be experiencing. That's after dose number 1. Then when you get to dose number 2, the same reaction. It says rectogenicity is typically higher after a second dose. Wiseman says the side effects mean the vaccine is working well. It means you had such a good immune response to the first dose, and now you are seeing the effects of that, he says. So they're here, or should I say they're on their way. The vaccines are here. Now, I guess the question was from the comments, is it mandatory? So I'm thinking to myself, based upon when, you have vaccines, especially certain people, especially like, people in the medical field, I think it's required, because you're going to be around people and stuff like that. And certain type of professions where you're going to be probably, in the public eye and around people a lot, that could be possible. But I don't think it's going to be required by everyone. Some people, they don't like to take vaccines. I mean, I remember back in the day where it was more like hey, you don't want to take vaccines. I know you're thinking about the school. You got to take people to school. That's why a lot of people started homeschooling and stuff like that. So it's something to consider. I don't want to go into too much details about that, but I'm letting you all know when you take these vaccines, this is what to be expected. It's going to be like a hell on earth when you take the first dose and possibly after the second dose. But if it's not so bad after the second dose, then it's more like, hey, your immune system kicked in and, you're all right. But I'm letting you all know it's kind of weird. I wanted to talk a little bit about what happened with our president. He didn't take a vaccine. He took something else. He took a cocktail. And that cocktail apparently, I'm just going to say it, apparently was therapeutic and did him well. So much that there was a few other people that took that cocktail. Now, I'm not sure how expensive that cocktail is because I'm telling you right now, the medical bills on the average person are astronomical. I don't think most people can afford it. But there are therapeutics. I'm not sure to what degree. I was trying to do some more research on that. So I saw some of the news people talking about it, like Chris Hayes. And it seemed like he was a little bit more perplexed about it like I was. And I'm like, So I'm going to keep my eye on that because I'm trying to understand what really happened. Because I know you all want to know what really happened. And now you have Ben Carson. He took it and he apparently says, hey, I'm doing better. It did the trick, so to speak. So I don't know. Some people might consider, say, hey, do I need to take the vaccine? Why not? What about therapeutics? Possibly. I don't know. But anyway, let's go into a wellness walk because we do have some help for you all right now. Okay, so let's focus on protection. This was a guy, okay, he was a virologist, okay? And this is from Business Insider, okay? It says, one of Belgium's top virologists offered his family 4 tips for surviving the long COVID-19 winter. I thought this was just amazing because it's some of the things that we've been promoting right now. Okay, so it says Peter Van Ham. He says, is the head of the International Media Council at the World Economic Forum and a member of its COVID-19 task force. He lives in Geneva, Switzerland. Okay. So I also want to remind you, as you spend much more time inside, like we most are, now that the weather is getting cold, that there are imperfect ways to protect yourself before any vaccine is here. And that will be important because if history and previous viruses are any guide, the toughest time is still ahead of us. With the Spanish flu and with many other viruses, most people got infected and got sick and even died during the winter season. That's coming up for us. That highest risk season is now. So what can we do? Well, I'd advise a combination of 4 imperfect measures. Pay attention. Okay. So real quick, let me read this and then we're going to go to the board. Okay. Or the screen. It says, together they lead to near perfection. They are wearing a mask, keeping distance, ventilating the airflow, and reducing your time of interaction. Okay, so right here, just so you all can see it laid out, where it's basically the same things that we've been talking about. Wearing a mask, wearing it properly over the bridge of your nose to your chin, and then keeping distance. They talk about 6 feet, but remember we talked about the sneeze last week? Achoo! I mean, I'm just letting you all know, just try to keep your distance. Maybe not try to put a little yardstick or anything like that, but just keep away from people for the most part, especially when they're not wearing a mask. And of course, ventilating the airflow. Now, this means basically in your home, usually you keep your windows closed because it's cold outside. You want to stay warm. But every now and then throughout the day, try to open your windows and let that air flow through your home. You have to because it becomes stale. And also think about making sure that you all are using good home furnace filters. Okay, ours is like 20 by 20. So they have these other filters out there. My wife and I had our eye on it. We haven't got it yet, but we were thinking about it. And this company called K&N, they basically make car, automotive filters. And I'm not just talking about any kind of filters. They make these filters that last forever, literally. I mean, all you have to do is just wash it with a solution and boom, you can put it right back in your car and you're good. K&N finally started making home furnace filters. And I think people are going crazy because they're like, wow, finally we get some K&N, because they know K&N is like the top notch filters. And you put this in your filter and it's like a HEPA filter. It's on that level. Yes. So we're talking about all kinds of particles, even down to viruses and stuff like that, being filtered. And then all you have to do is just wash it. I'm not sure how often you wash it because I didn't check out, the specs on it. But I would wash it often. I would wash it probably at least maybe every week. I'm just saying, and then just keep it clean. And then also you have the reducing your time of interaction. I'm just letting you all know, like, not a lot of people still gathering at churches and stuff like that. And when they do, just limit your interaction. I mean, and when I say interaction, I'm talking about your time also. Like, just don't stay in a place hours on end and the room becomes saturated with so-called spittle and vapors from everyone talking. Hopefully everyone was wearing a mask. And then, you can get up out of there and just, say your pleasantries on the phone or, whatever. So just keep that in mind, because this is a virologist. He knows what he's talking about. He put it together in such a way where, and I don't know how I can read it, because he had a formula. And his formula is basically saying in so many words, if you do nothing, you have a 100% chance of infection. Keep that in mind. But if an infected person wears a mask, that's a 50% chance of infection. Like, your chances are 50%. And then it says non-infected person wears a mask, 50% chance of infection. Okay? Ventilation, 50% chance of infection. Keeping distance, 50% chance infection. So then he says, if you combine the measures, however, something interesting happens. This is the cool thing, because, I guess he knows about science and stuff. And remember, he's a virologist. He knows about viruses and stuff. Remember, the swine flu and so forth. He says approximately 6% chance of infection is left after you add up all the numbers. And it says, with for example, 75% reduction in infection rate for each measure. The combined risk of infection drops, and he went to less than 0.1%. You have a great chance if you follow those 4 protocols. I'm just letting you all know. I mean, you can wait for the vaccine, go right ahead. But in the meantime, let's be safe than sorry. Okay, we're going to go right into our topic of the day. Now, this is part 6. We're going to try to wrap it up, hopefully next week. I have my trajectory for next week to end it, because the show is going to go into a lot of everyday life, coping, and how do you handle certain situations, helping people to think, like it says in Philippians 4:8. Think on these things and how you can train up your child, train up yourself in the way you should go. And then what's going to happen is you're going to be more equipped to handle all kinds of turmoil in your life. Everybody goes through all kinds of, I call it like the hell on earth. And we're thinking, oh, you're going to go to hell. But a lot of people are experiencing that now, as far as that turmoil, especially emotional. And, there's some things that we can do to cope with that, using biblical principles so that we can be on top of our game, so we can make our calling and election sure, so we can be prepared for the Lord's soon return. Now, we're going over America's dark past, but there's some things that I want to focus on about America. There's one thing in particular that I didn't bring out yet, but why not now? We have our Constitution. Now, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, 2 separate documents. One is legally binding. The other is not. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, which one is not legally binding? Well, let's go over the one that's legally binding. I need not the Declaration of Independence. I just gave you a big hint. I need the Constitution. Now, we all know the Constitution starts with the preamble, right? The preamble. We the people, right? So think about it. You can recite it with me. And it's something like we should kind of know this by heart. And if you don't, you'll be reminded of those words. Now, it says, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That's just the preamble, but that speaks volumes, because what it's basically saying is that we all in this thing together. Meaning those people who believe this, those people who hope in this, those people who fight for this and say, hey, I'm for that. Now, I know I'm for that. And I believe that you are too. But there's a lot of people that are not for that. That's a legally binding document. That's part of the Constitution. This, on the other hand, this is the preamble of the Declaration of Independence. Now, this is kind of like the other one, but this is just not legally binding. It says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by the Creator, that's God, with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Amen. See, that's what we supposed to stand for. But there's something else that I wanted to bring out, because it actually continues from that point. And I'm not going to read all of it, but I want to read this part that came up right after that, because it says that to secure these rights, governments are instituted deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That means we have the power because they need our consent. We're governed. It says that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. Did y'all hear that? It says that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, meaning the pursuit of happiness and liberty and life and all that kind of good stuff, it says it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. That's deep. Keep that in mind. Now, this is not a legally binding document, but it's the Declaration of Independence. This is part of it. Okay. I urge you and implore you to read this thing. It says, and to institute new government. Because if you're going to abolish it, you got to have new government. It says, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. That's deep. Because I'm letting you all know right now, we had some leaders of our past, not too far distant past, but we're talking about the civil rights movement. We think about leaders like Martin Luther King. Now, I'm hoping I can read this from here because I guess it's kind of a little grainy. Maybe you can too. And did you print that out? Maybe not. Let's try it though. I got the light all over my eyes. Okay, go to the screen. Yes. So Martin Luther King says, this will be the day when we shall bring into full realization the dream of the American democracy, a dream yet unfulfilled, a dream of equality, of opportunity, of privilege and property, widely distributed, a dream of a land where men will not take necessities from the many to give luxuries to the few. See, that's what's happening right now. You got the 1%ers or 5%ers or whatever you want to call them. They're the top. But then you have everybody else at the bottom. Let them eat cake. I'm just saying. So it's one of those things where you got to think about, he basically laid it out. We got a problem here. But he has a dream. And I'm telling you, we need to be dreamers in a sense. I don't get so stuck up on the future, as in, oh, it'll never happen, because people get so stuck on prophecy and things of that nature. I'm talking about, I've seen people from all walks of life. And my wife and I, we were just watching some videos this week. It was horrible. It was a lot of, so-called, I'm gonna say it, so-called false prophets saying, victory, 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 and all that kind of stuff. And he's the man, and this is going to happen, and second term, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, how do you know? How do you know? Did God tell you that? Because if God tell you that, it must be a different God, because it didn't go down that way. And then they say, oh, it must be something else. And then go in, and it's something else, and it's something else. I'm like, really? That's how you can tell a false prophet. A false prophet will take a so-called prophecy, take that prophecy, say it don't come to pass, then they'll say it must be something else. And then they'll do it again, and they say it must be something else. And then they keep going, it must be something else. Stop it. Let's just focus on the here and now, okay? Remember, if we remember the past, and I'm gonna add another thing. If we remember the past and learn from the past, remember, life is a lesson, learn from it. If we remember the past, learn from the past, we won't repeat the past. So when we see things that happen and we see that we can learn from it, remember, teachable moments, they come a dime a dozen. We're supposed to learn. God wants us to learn, Remember, he said, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Knowledge is right before us. He said, because you reject the knowledge, I shall also reject you. Where's that knowledge coming from? The knowledge is coming from everywhere. We just got to be taking heed. But I want to show you this right quick. This is Malcolm X. He says, and I quote, I am not a racist. I am against every form of racism and segregation, every form of discrimination. I believe in human beings, and that all human beings should be respected as such, regardless of their color. Now, I believe he believed that, because I believe that. That's the reason why I don't believe in the black experience. I believe in the American experience. So when I've been talking about America's dark past, that's all of us. We all part of this. I think about black, white, Native American, Hispanic, and Asian. We're all a part of this experience. And some people say, well, I'm not white. Well, a lot of people come into the categories of different things. Like, we were not from the Caribbean, but they come under maybe black people, possibly. And it just depends. Just like some people say, well, I'm not Chinese, but you come from Asia. Well, I'm not Indian. You still come from Asia. That's why I say Asian. So look, this is another quote he said. Malcolm X says, one of the first things I think young people, especially nowadays, should learn is how, and I quote, to see for yourself and listen for yourself and think for yourself. Then you can come to an unintelligent decision for yourself. Now that's amazing, because that's what I've been basically teaching on this show. We got to think so that we won't be deceived. Take heed lest ye fall. We have to study to show ourselves approved, not to man, but to God. We got to look at life as a lesson, and we need to learn from it. How are we going to do that if we don't look for it, if we don't watch as well as pray? So what I'm looking at right now is this opportunity for us to be able to go over a couple of things. Now, last week, we kind of focused a little bit on, what was that? Emmett Till. We focused on Rosa Parks, but before that, remember that? Claudette. Yeah. Was it Coven? Yeah. And she was the one that really did the thing with the, she won't be moved off of the bus. But the poster child for NAACP was Rosa Parks. Okay. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to kind of go over a couple of short videos, if I can put it that way, and there's going to be some commentary with that. Right here, this is just kind of giving you some basic breakdown. So I hope you catch it, because it kind of goes kind of fast, and I don't think I'm gonna pause it. I might not. So let's roll this on the other. Yeah, that's it. Okay, here we go.
live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Were swamped by both Negro and white voters, some of whom stood in line.
Pause right there. Okay. I wanted to bring this thing out right here. Okay, so right here. I need for you all to understand something. You all can go back to this video and you can pause because it was kind of going a little fast. But one thing that I caught was during this movement, you know, these protests and so forth, Martin Luther King, he got something accomplished that I thought was like great, or should I say was good, there you go, but not great. And people say, what do you mean not great? Look, we had the rights to vote, okay? That was great. Also, I mean, that was good. Because then you also had where Johnson had our protection, meaning, you know, he sent in the forces to basically make sure that we could register to vote. Okay, but see, I think the problem with that was we didn't have it in writing per se. We didn't have it like to say, okay, this is the law. Not only do you have the rights, but also if anyone, now listen, if anyone prevents you from registering and voting, they will be held to the highest extent of the law. Justice will be served, and these people will be incarcerated or whatever else have to be done if you do that. See, that wasn't in writing. So what was in writing was we have the rights, you know. In other words, we can freely vote and things of that nature. But it wasn't what you call anything in place to say on paper, as far as the law, to say if you prevent them from voting, this will happen to you. See, that's what should have been done. That's just my thoughts on that. Because on paper is one thing, but what about consequences and repercussions for those people who prevent other people from having rights? See, that's what was missing in our not our Constitution, but in our laws, because I'm pretty sure you can make amendment after amendment, but every time you make an amendment, you got to think about these amendments need to have something else, a clause to say, and if you do prevent someone from, you know, having this right, then this will happen to you. Now, I think there's things like that, you know, on books, but not on a level like this, because the law needs to be enforced if you have the laws to so-called back it up. And I think that's where we need to start thinking. Like, if we got all these protests and we just, yay, you know, we want our rights. You know, we need protections too. We need it on paper, you know, protect and to serve and all that kind of good stuff. That's what we need. Okay, because I'm telling you right now, as I go through this this episode, it's going to be a little intense. And I say that because there's some things that you're probably thinking, should you really talk about that? Period. And I'm gonna tell you something. When we talk about it, it's going to be kind of one of those things where you have to see what is really at stake here. And that is our democracy. Not black democracy. The democracy of those people who believe in the Constitution. Those people believe in the Declaration of Independence. And I want to be able to make sure that we go into the next segment of the other video, because this is going to show you that there is something that's going on. Okay. It was a counterintelligence program. I don't know if you all heard about that, but I want to make sure, and you can find it for me before we go to that next thing. It was a counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO. That's how they call it. And it's something that most people didn't know. But what happened was, I think it was released by the FBI. A lot of people didn't know this. And this program was basically showing you what this counterintelligence program was about. They were targeting certain people, okay? And they had their eyes on these people, and I kept thinking, okay, so who they target? Who they get their eyes on? And it started looking at, I'm just saying, looking at the race only. And sure enough, most of these people were black. And you'll see. So we're gonna point that. I'm sorry, you're not there yet. Go to that segment. That's the next segment of the. Matter of fact, I can help you. Here we go. Yeah. This was on Now. That was Now. Because I want to make sure I get the right thing. Because I want to give credit to this, because this lady did an excellent job. Okay. So Now This News. That's it. Now This News exclusive. That's it. So you all can check it out, because what she did, it was amazing, because she had people on there, like Bobby Rush and people like that, and broke it down about what's going on with this report, the FBI report about this counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO. Okay, so let's check this out, and we can see kind of like the makings of this program thing.
The extremists as a threat to law enforcement. Critics say the report is eerily similar to the FBI's 20th century counterintelligence program.
COINTELPRO was an FBI operation established in the 50s by J. Edgar Hoover to target African Americans who were fighting for justice and equality. He targeted Dr. King, he targeted Malcolm X, and over 80% of the targets of COINTELPRO were members of the Black Panther Party.
At the height of COINTELPRO, activists and community organizers were targeted. These include current Congressional Black Caucus members like John Lewis, Bobby Rush, Emmanuel Cleaver, and Barbara Lee.
The church committee in the mid-70s held hearings and determined that many of the actions and activities of COINTELPRO were really unconstitutional.
What you've described is a series of illegal actions intended squarely to deny First Amendment rights to some Americans. How shall we ensure that it never happen again?
One of the similarities that I see are that it's based on race. COINTELPRO definitely targeted African Americans. Black identity extremists, which Attorney General Jeff Sessions has put out, targets African Americans. When it was brought to our attention, we immediately contacted the FBI director and had a very forthright meeting. I specifically asked him, how do they identify black identity extremists? Who are they? And there was no answer to that. We still don't know who's a black identity extremist.
A lot of activists around the country are very concerned that we're getting ready to repeat a very sad chapter of our history, where people who are rightfully protesting what they consider to be an injustice in their community, which is their relationship with police officers, are now being targeted and labeled as extremists and are going through periods of surveillance and harassment.
As a community worker, I attended many Black Panther Party functions. I was part of the breakfast program. We registered many people, the African American community and others, to vote. Well, the FBI during COINTELPRO would try to turn members of the Black Panther Party against each other. Agent provocateurs were placed within the party to try to sow dissent.
I was the coordinator of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. In December 4th, 1969, Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, two members of the Black Panther Party, were murdered. And they put an informant, William O'Neill, planted him inside the Panther Party.
We can mourn today, but if we understood, Fred, that we are dedicated, that his life wasn't given in vain.
The national director of the FBI said that the Black Panther Party was the #1 threat to national security of this nation. And that created the conditions for law enforcement agents all across this nation to go after Panther. That program that they did, in some sense, we ought to be thankful for, because that put in writing for everybody to see. We're still in the eyes of so many, nothing but a bunch of work. Was I surprised? No. I fully expected it to happen. Now the question is, how do we deal with it?
People need to get to their members of Congress and get them a copy of this report and hold their members of Congress accountable. In this day and time, they could really stop and halt the progressive movements that are taking place in the country. And I think with Black Lives Matter, with the Dreamers, with all of our millennials and what they're doing, they deserve to be out there and to protest and to engage in petitioning their government to right the wrongs of the past. Those of us who've been around, who saw COINTELPRO, really know the risks and the dangers, and so I hope that people really believe us that this happened, because this is COINTELPRO 2.0.
Yeah. And that was a lot of elements there. I mean, what's happening is that the government, more specifically, I guess the FBI, they were targeting these extremists. And I guess what came to clarity, okay, was who are these extremists? And then it started showing the list of all these so-called extremists like MLK, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, a lot of the Congress people, 80% of the so-called Black Panthers, and the list goes on. And this is who they were targeting. Now, it looks to me that, okay, you might say, maybe I can understand the Black Panthers. They might say that. But then they'd be like, well, what about Malcolm X? Maybe. He seemed a little, rambunctious or whatever. But what about Martin Luther King? I mean, even Hoover was basically giving him the runaround. I mean, and coming hard on him. I guess I'm looking at it like, J. Edgar Hoover was kind of like racist, because from what I'm picking up, he was basically looking at Martin Luther King as he didn't have a right to speak up for his people. Or for any people. Man, we're in America. He spoke up for all Americans. It's just that we were at the bottom of the oppression, if I could put it that way. So when you look at how we were targeted, you got to ask yourself this question: why? And they couldn't answer it. They couldn't answer why Black people were targeted. Like, you go down the list and you say, okay, you got Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Congress people. Matter of fact, Bobby Rush was with the Black Panthers. Congressperson, working, as a public servant. So obviously the Black Panthers wasn't that much of a threat, but somehow they thought they were threatening. Now I'm telling you right now, going back into some of the previous episodes that we had, it was all about this American experience that basically said, remember, white people, particular white people, the Southern, ideology, the Southern idiosyncrasy that became a national ideology. But let's go back to that Southern idiosyncrasy. Back in the day, they were thinking Black people, these niggers, need to stay in their place. Anytime Black person rose up, and I ain't talking about rise to power, but just rising up, pull themselves up by the bootstraps, so to speak, or they speak, about freedom and liberty and things of that in the pursuit of happiness, like the Declaration of Independence, they looked at them as a threat and say, no, they need to stay in their place. All men are created equal. That's what they thought. But we were not men. We were, 3/5 of a man? Is that what it was? We were not exactly a man. Is that what they really thought? Well, I can see that maybe they did think that way. I mean, you had Charles Darwin, saying, hey, we came from apes and stuff like that. And the Black man looked like they came from that line even more so. And we're the higher evolutionary chain, meaning the white people. So I'm looking at it like they've been instilled all these things, these perversions about us, Black people. All men are created equal. That's the bottom line. So how on earth did they come to the conclusion okay, maybe. Wait a minute. I'm sorry, y'all. I wish I could have took a pause.
That's okay.
No, you know what? Maybe I might work on that. Because, I remember that. Okay. Sorry about that. That was a little inside thing. Let me keep that there just in case. But I'm looking at like when I say they, I ain't talking about all white people. Because remember, There's a lot of white people that have been oppressed. A lot. A lot of Native Americans been oppressed. But did you all know this? Real brief. There was some Native Americans. I mean, I can back it up. I just don't have the information right now in front of me. There were some Native Americans that bought slaves. African Americans, Negroes. Yes. And treated us so bad. Yeah. When we tried to escape, they tried to kill us. Yeah. So I'm just letting you all know. So it isn't just a white thing, but the white thing was the prominent thing. The white Southern colonials. Okay. So if we think about it, that's what God hates. Right here, I'll keep going back to this. Proverbs 6:16 through 19. Things are the things that God hates. He hath sowed discord among brethren. Somehow, people like Charles Darwin and these other colonials saying that we're 3/5 of a man and we're not exactly created equal. And also trying to convince our people to tell us that too. And somehow we pit each other against each other. Okay, that's not what God wants. God wants us to have unity in him. That's why I say unity in Christ. And when you have that unity in Christ, you're your brother's keeper. You're going to be thinking about everybody is created equal. Not, oh, we're better than you, like the Joneses or something like that. It's not like that. I mean, I can't convince people to do that. All I can do is convey. But I want people to understand that right back here, unless you got the other one, unless we think about each other as we're all in this thing together. Oh, that is it. Matthew chapter 7, verse 12. Now, if I read it, y'all might say, okay, that's why you're supposed to expound on the word. It says, therefore, all things, this is Christ. Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. This ain't nothing but do unto others as you have them do unto you. That's what Jesus was saying. I think that's Leviticus 19. So it was bringing out the concept that, hey, we're all in this thing together. We all are trying to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All of us. But somehow y'all didn't get it through your thick skull that we're created equal also. So moving forward, and you see us being targeted throughout all of these times. I mean, let's break it down. From the colonial days, I'm talking about what the so-called forefathers thinking that, the terrible ideology. And then you're moving on, and then they wanted to have secession. And then they wanted to keep us as slaves because they treated us like cattle. And then they wanted to fight over us with a brother, you know, the Northerners and the Southerners. And at the end of all that, you thinking slavery was over with. Yeah, it was abolished, but somehow you still had enmity against us. And you killed us, lynched us, and all kinds of stuff. You saw what happened to Emmett Till and stuff like that. And then you had all these different bad things happen to us every time we spoke up or we said, hey, we all in this thing together type of thing. But see, you know what? You have to have God in your life. If God is in your life, he is your shield and your buckler. You got to remember that. Some people get so scared about things, but at the same time, you get to be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. I know that. But the bottom line is, at what point are you going to just say, hey, we need to speak up for our rights, and we need to speak up for equality, and we need to speak up that we are created equal. And there's some people out here, listen, there's some people out here that hate us, and they think poorly about us, and they want us to just be their slaves. I was going to say servants. No, they want us to be enslaved. If they won the war, let's say the South actually won the war. Think about it. Will we still be slaves? Absolutely. See, y'all don't understand that. We got to think about, praise the Lord, that it turned out the other way because they wanted to keep us enslaved. Can you imagine? We're in 2020 right now. We're thinking, oh, you know, things will get better. I mean, if they won, I'm just saying, God forbid, and they didn't, praise the Lord. But if they did won, we still be slaves. Matter of fact, they had enslaved white people too. People don't remember that. Yes, it wasn't just black people. They enslaved a whole lot of other different people too. But the difference with us is that we weren't given our freedom after so much time. Not readily. Sometimes they did give it to us. But on a common note, the white people were. After they worked so long, they were, gave them their freedom. So I'm looking at it like right now, why are we still being targeted? Why are we treated like anything less than human? Anything less than an American? Because I'm telling you right now, there are hate groups out here. I love all people. Remember, Jesus said it. Love your enemy. You were supposed to love our enemy. Why is it so important that we love our enemy? Because remember, we can't bring hate into heaven. Can't do it. If you are not working out your own salvation with fear and trembling in your soul to say, hey, I need to love one another. We need to love our neighbor as ourselves. And we need to love God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength. If you don't practice that now, what you preach, meaning this is the Christian walk. And when you do that, you're working at your own salvation. You're making your calling and election sure. But when you have bitterness in your soul towards your brother and your sister and your cousin and whoever else for that matter, that ain't working towards salvation. That's working toward hell. I'm just letting you all know right now. I mean, it's not a white and black thing. You got black people, white people, Asians, and all kinds of people out here that are doing all kinds of things out here, one to another. Hey, I've seen white people treat their own kind, white people, bad. I've seen black people treat black people bad. I've seen heterosexuals treat gay people bad. I've seen gay people treat heterosexuals bad. We're all in this thing together. We need to stop spreading the hate. I'm just telling you right now. So let's continue with this because I want you all to see. This is something before we go, I want to tell you right now, this hate thing is terrible because no matter what walk of life you are, I don't care how affluent you are or how dignified you are, whatever, everyone's treated terrible sometimes. Now this guy, he was a professor, Mississippi University. He basically has a story. I'm going to try to give you the brief breakdown of his how it happened. He basically wrote a book. And this book was about the Black Panthers. Okay, wrote a book. And to make a long story short, he was supposed to be going to somewhere to pick up a car that he purchased and then come back. So obviously, it's not like a regular trip where you have luggage and stuff. But he did have books. As you know, when he came back, he was going to go ahead and do a book signing and stuff like that. But he was stopped at the airport and they basically said, whoa, these books about the Black Panther. So they freaked out. And the FBI called in and all that kind of stuff. And somehow, that was a bad situation, but he's used to that because he's down south, This is a black professor, okay? He goes back to work, he's a professor, right? And all of a sudden, he's called up by his boss and said, hey, you're a felon. He like, how? Because, he don't remember anything that would give him, a record. But then say, you got to check that with the FBI and stuff. So then he did check with the FBI and found out that he had a record. He asked them, how? How did that happen? Oh, we don't know. Well, what's the charges? We don't know. And it was just constantly, we don't know. But it was on his record. And for 2 years, he had to fight to get that thing expunged. It's messed up because we go through that all the time. Sometimes we don't even know what our records are. He just happened to find out. Now, this is messed up because he's going to tell you his experience briefly about this thing with the Black Panthers. But I wanted to say this real quick. From the other previous video, I don't know if you all know this, but Fred Hampton, he was a rising star. Okay. He basically was trying to help people. Okay. And the Black Panthers did help a lot of people. I ain't just talking about black people. They helped a lot of white people and other nationalities. But let's check him out right quick because I had some commentary on his story.
What is it about this organization that prompts such an irrational, over-the-top, and extreme response that 40 years after the organization has died, a lowly professor like myself can be stopped in an airport, detained for hours, questioned, then labeled a felon for simply writing a book about the organization? Why does Fred Hampton have to pay with his life for simply organizing around issues that there's nothing wrong with feeding kids and taking care of sick people. There's nothing wrong with not wanting to be killed by the police. So we have to ask ourselves, what is it about this organization? And I'll tell you, the thing about this organization is that it was actually anti-racist. And it made a point to work with all people, whether it was upper and middle class whites, lower class whites, Asians, Latinos, Native Americans, anybody who wanted to help solve these problems, this organization was willing to work with them. And that was a problem. If this interracial organization was not effective, people would not have been so dead set against it. So it wasn't just Fred Hampton who had to pay. It wasn't just me who had to pay with being labeled a felon. You probably saw this a few weeks ago. Beyonce performed at the Super Bowl at the halftime show. And she and the women who were dancing with her dressed up in these black leather outfits, these black berets, and they were dressed that way to pay homage to the Black Panther Party. 2016 marks the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Black Panther Party, and they were trying to honor this community service organization. But what they got in return was a ton of hate mail. People all over the country are saying they are racist and anti-white, they're cop haters. Police officers have said that they don't want to give her the security she needs at her concerts. Mayors have said they don't want her in her town. Beyonce is racist. Beyonce. I mean, racy maybe, but not racist. So we just have to keep asking ourselves, why are we told these stories about the Black Panther Party, and who benefits from us knowing these lies? So I want to encourage you to do your own research about the party, but be careful when you're doing your research, because I've been studying this subject for 25 years now, and what I've discovered is that 73% of all the newspaper articles written about the Black Panther Party were written by the FBI, or people the FBI recruited. And so there's all this villainy and misinformation. And we spoke about Fred Hampton a second ago, and I just want to tell you that Fred Hampton and Mark Clark's family actually sued the city of Chicago, the state's attorney's office. A jury found them guilty, and they paid them almost $2 million. But that doesn't bring Fred back, and that doesn't stop the villainy. We have to find out the truth about this organization for ourselves, and I encourage you to do that. I also encourage you to question your own biases about what you know about American history. And finally, I want to encourage you to reach out across racial lines and ethnic lines and do your part in solving the problems that face our country today, because Black people can't solve these problems on their own. White people can't solve them on their own. Latino people can't solve them on their own. Unless all of us come together as a people and solve these problems, they'll never be solved. So I say to you, power to the people.
See, this was a TED Talk. Okay, like I said, the professor, he basically broke down the fact that he was harassed, for no apparent reason. I mean, everyone has all kinds of books. I mean, what about people with Harry Potter books or whatever, witchcraft books or whatever like that? Are they stopped at the airport? I don't know. But I'm looking at it like Fred Hampton. He was, when he died in 1969, he was only 21 years old. This great leader, 21 years old, yeah, gunned down. They say he had barbiturates. I don't know what the story was. I think he was drugged. He was in bed. Matter of fact, the guy at the door that was, guarding him, protecting him, he got shot by the Chicago police, as well as the state police. It was like a concerted effort. Came into Fred Hampton's room with his girl, who was 8 or 9 months pregnant, took her out. They went back in there. He's still asleep. Take him by the head and gave him to the head. Killed him. He was still asleep. That was an assassination. Is that what they call that? And I Googled it. I said, I forgot how I worded it, but I said, who killed Fred Hampton? And somehow one of the little things that came at the bottom was, who assassinated, Fred Hampton? Now this is Google. I didn't say who assassinated him, but they said who assassinated him. And the only people that could have taken him out was the so-called law enforcement. That's terrible because, yeah, they sued the city of Chicago and they got, almost maybe $2 million, but that's nothing because that's a life. And as far as I'm concerned, this is a very important individual because he did a lot to help out not just black people. He helped out, like you said, Asians, Hispanic, even white, Appalachians. He helped out a lot of people with these programs. The Black Panthers actually started that so-called, the morning breakfast program, because they said that the kids weren't learning. So they said, we need to go and help them. And they were getting white organizations, white, stores, and asking them, can they donate some of their food, like eggs and things like that. And they said, sure. And they gave it to them. Now, why would they give it to the Black Panthers unless maybe Black Panthers was doing some good for the community? And they helped them out. It wasn't just in Oakland. They had different chapters all over the nation, including Chicago. And what's happening was they were helping out those who were misfortunate, okay? And they gave them not just food, they actually started free health clinics because people couldn't afford health care. That's what was happening. And a lot of people in the medical field were donating their services to help them out. Why would they help them out? Unless maybe it was a good thing? This the Black Panthers. Black Panthers was on Time Magazine and all kinds of stuff. So it was one of those things where they got vilified and they were demonized. But at the same time, a lot of people in the world started looking at them and say, hey, y'all some good people. Kind of similar to an organization that you would say, hey, let's give to this charity. It was kind of like that. It's just that there's a dark side to that too. But it's weird because they were more concerned with, if you all are not going to protect and to serve us, we need to protect ourselves. So yes, they had what you call armament. Okay. But it's kind of weird because when you think about the government wasn't working for them, meaning for the people, by the people. What happened was, it was one of those things where they say, hey, if you all can't help us, then we're going to help ourselves. But they, from what I'm picking up, they were not racist. They were empowered to take care of their own, if I could put it that way. And it's weird because I'm saying this. I don't want you to take my word for it. I know it's a sensitive subject, but the only reason it's sensitive is because no one wants to talk about it. So that's why we talk about things like this on the walk, because we want you all to be enlightened, encouraged, and empowered to work out your own salvation without fear of being led astray. Because there's a lot of people out there, and it ain't just white. There's a lot of people out there that just want to keep you in darkness. See, God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. And we're children of light. Let's act like it. So I want you all to think about it from this perspective. We need to examine ourselves to see if we're truly in the faith. Are you a real Christian? Are you a true follower of God? Are we thinking about this thing from the perspective of, it's not just about black and white, it's about God and country. We live in America. We need to be reminded about that, because sometimes people forget that we are Americans. Let's stop calling ourselves Native Americans, African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans. Let's start calling ourselves Americans, and let's start calling ourselves Christians. I have no problem. I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I am a Christian. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. That's what Christianity means. What did Jesus used to do? He used to always call out those hypocrites. Why? Because hypocrites basically act like not even act like a Christian, because they don't act like a Christian. He said your righteousness must exceed theirs. So we got to think about from the perspective of, if we talking about righteousness, we got to talk about Christ, our righteousness. So we need to check ourselves and make sure that we understand, what does it mean about Christ, our righteousness? Righteousness by faith. It's impossible to please God without faith. See, we walk by faith and not by sight. So are we following Jesus? Are we following the world? I see too many false prophets out here. I said it. There's a lot of false prophets out there doing their own willy-nilly. Yeah, all out the place. And they ain't helping the people. There are churches on almost every street corner. What are they doing in the community? I have no idea. I'm looking at it like we got a lot of churches on different corners. Every church out here should have a concerted effort to say, you know what? We're all in this thing together. Let's help one another. There's some conferences to say, oh, we're going to help this person over here or this church over here because of maybe funds. Man, I don't know what you got to do, but you need to enlighten, encourage, and empower people to do evangelism or something, because there's a lot of people out there hurting. A lot of people. That's why I'm doing the walk right now, because a lot of people out there are hurting because they're so focused on willy-nilly instead of thinking about, hey, we're supposed to have love for one another. We're supposed to care for one another. It ain't a black and white thing. It's just that I know a lot of our black people were oppressed, and I showed you that dark past. But I'm telling you, we all are Americans. And right now, all men are created equal. I know that. Do you know that? So when we look at this thing, we got to say, hey, God will take care of us if nobody else will. Think about it. Think about your government right now. And I feel so bad because when I read that Declaration of Independence, and you can go back to this video and you can look at that. I mean, I didn't put it on the screen, but it's messed up because you can look it up. Study to show yourself approved. This is just giving you a little nudge on the right path because we need to understand that it's about God and he will take care of us. Let's do this hymn to him and let's sing from our heart. Okay? God will take care of you. Be not dismayed where'er betide, God will take care of you. Beneath his wings of love abide, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. Through days of toil when heart doth fail, God will take care of you. When dangers fears your path assail, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. No matter what may be the test, God will take care of you. Lean weary one upon his breast, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. Amen. Now, for a taste of things to come. Hopefully next week. I know there were some things I wanted to cover. I didn't get a chance to, but you know what? We're going to talk about them in time, about different subjects. Like what happened to JFK? I mean, I don't know if it's going to be the next episode, but it might. I want to hear some comments. So please subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, share, comment. If you're so inclined, send us an email. Comments, concerns, questions, complaints, whatever it may be, because you know what? I'm here for you all. I'm here for the Lord to give him the glory, and I'm here to edify you. We're all in this thing together, believe it or not. I want you all to understand that, well, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. No? Yeah, there you go. I just want you all to understand. I do love you all. That's why I'm doing this show. I care about you all. And I do hope and pray that you do have a closer walk with your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. We're all in this thing together. So please be safe, though. Thank you for taking me in and tuning in. And till next time.